Yo, gentleman's game back. So the other day a fan reached out to me with a message asking for some advice. I don't always get a chance to reply because of how many messages I get, but this one really stood out and I think you guys can get some real value out of me addressing it. So I'm gonna read his question and then pretty much say how I feel about it. But first, if you could do me a quick favor and give this video a thumbs up and hit the notification bell, it'd really help me out with the algorithm and I'd really appreciate it. Alright, so here it goes. Hey gentlemen's game. I've been dating this girl from my college for 7 months now. Things were great at first. We were having so much fun and we were really good to each other. But then a few months ago I found out she cheated on me with another guy she met at a party. I was devastated since this was my first real relationship. She cried and cried, saying how sorry she was and how it was a stupid accident she made in the heat of the moment and how she never meant to hurt me, etc, etc. I felt betrayed, but I stuck with her. I didn't know any better because she was my first girlfriend and I didn't want to lose her. Fast forward 2 months later and I catch her texting someone else on Tinder. She kept denying it at first, but when I asked if she could just show me her phone to prove it, she didn't want to show me, saying I needed to stop being so insecure and just stop worrying. We ended up arguing more and more and finally she admitted that she was texting someone from Tinder, but it wasn't serious and she wasn't really going to meet up with him, she just wanted the validation. I'm hurt and betrayed again and I don't know what to do. I like her a lot besides her cheating and I really don't want to lose her and have to deal with finding another girlfriend. What should I do? Whew, so that was a long one. To summarize, this dude's girl cheated on him once, then was caught texting another guy on Tinder, and she got caught again, and now he's feeling hurt and betrayed. Well, there's a few things that's really wrong with this dude's mentality, the way he's going about dealing with girls who betray him. I'm gonna break them all down because I have a feeling most of you have felt betrayed before by someone you liked. Maybe not directly by cheating, but done dirty in some other way. For example, I've been in similar situations before too. I remember this girl I was previously dating who'd sometimes call her ex and talk to him even while we were together, so I totally feel for this dude. Now, the first thing you need to ask yourself when someone who you care about betrays you is this truly a one-off thing, or is this their nature? So to illustrate this point more clearly, let me tell you about an old, famous folktale that's been around for hundreds of years. So one day there's a scorpion, and it's trying to cross like a giant river, but obviously scorpions can't swim. So the scorpion looks around and tries to figure out how it's gonna cross this river. And then it sees a frog. So the scorpion crawls over to the frog and asks, "Hey frog, I'm trying to cross that river. Mind helping me out and letting me ride your back and you can like swim over for me?" The frog thinks, and he has his reservations, understandably. He says, "I don't know, scorpion, what if you sting me?" The scorpion responds, "Oh, don't worry about that, frog. If I sting you, then that means I drown too. Why would I want to do that?" So the frog thinks again and he says, "Alright, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Alright, fine, let me help you swim on over." So the scorpion gets on the frog's back and they start swimming across the lake. They're swimming and swimming about halfway across. Then all of a sudden, the frog feels a sharp sting on his back and instantly becomes paralyzed. He realizes he's been stung by the scorpion. In his last few breaths, he turns around to face his traitor and asks, "Why, scorpion? Why did you sting me? Now we're both gonna die." The scorpion slowly answers, "I stung you because I'm a scorpion. It's in my nature to do so." Pretty deep folktale, right? Philosophers and writers have analyzed this folktale for centuries, trying to come up with their own interpretations. I'm sure most of us can agree, however, that one of the main themes of the stories is that when someone shows you their nature, believe them. I'm not saying that people are irredeemable, but what I am saying is that there are genuinely malicious people out there. Like I heard somewhere once, hurt people hurt people. People sometimes have a self-sabotaging, self-destructive attitude towards life. And sometimes it won't even be rational, as in they don't really have a reason or something to gain from it. They just do it because it's in their nature, just like the scorpion who stung the frog even though it itself would perish. So bringing all this back to the original message, this person had a girl who betrayed his trust and cheated on him. Under most circumstances, I consider one instance of cheating to be enough, especially if it was like full sex. But I understand sometimes people really do just make one-off mistakes. You know, maybe it was a really quick drunk kiss and then she instantly regretted it. Not saying that's okay, but context certainly helps determine if this is something that can be worked through and eventually forgiven. Again, I don't know how she cheated the first time, the message didn't really specify, but let's say it really was some extenuating circumstance that she didn't really seek out. You know, maybe some guy came up and started dancing on her and she was really drunk and she went along with it for like 2 minutes, then immediately realized this wasn't okay and she had to stop. Then yeah, okay, I can understand, and maybe I'd even agree that you could let it slide this once. And just to be extra observant from now on how she behaves and how often she gets herself into these situations that lead to these quote-unquote accidents. But then this guy mentions that 2 months later he catches her messaging dudes on Tinder. Now, one time is maybe a one-off, but betraying you twice? Now that's a pattern, and most likely it's simply her nature. That's it, nothing more to it. I wish there was some magical word I could give you that you can use to make her stick with you and be faithful forever, but unfortunately that's not how the world works. Like I mentioned before, I've been betrayed myself and handled it like a total wuss, letting her disrespect me and allowing it to continue because I didn't really respect myself. In the words of these kids today, I was acting like a total simp. Someone who foolishly overvalues a girl and puts her on a pedestal. Trust me guys, you don't want to be a simp. Girls will lose more attraction and respect for you. When a girl betrays your trust, you have to set boundaries. Boundaries are what you're willing to accept and not accept. And if she crosses a line, like say cheat on you, you have to be willing to walk away. Without boundaries, you have no clear compass on what behavior you should accept or not, because you're so dependent on her. You're so dependent on those warm, fuzzy feelings that she gives you that you're willing to compromise on your integrity. See, if I was in this dude's situation, and I hope most of you guys are thinking of this as well, then the first thing I would have done when she cheated the first time was draw a boundary. Again, he didn't specify the context, but if it was something that really crossed that boundary, like she went home with him and slept with him, then yeah, that's an automatic, alright, it's time to pack up and move on to the next one. But if it was something more understandable, I guess, like, you know, you're with this girl for 5 years and she's always been faithful, but then one night, you know, she drunkenly dances with someone for a minute and then immediately stops and tells you and apologizes, then yeah, you know, don't end it right there maybe, but again, draw the boundary. Like, yo, I'm not gonna tolerate that kind of disrespect. If you do something like that again, I'm gonna have to reconsider this whole thing. And that's what a lot of this comes down to, is the willingness to walk away when you're not being treated right, to always have that self-respect. This solves so many problems up front because if you're willing to walk away, that means you're less needy around girls, which will just make you seem more attractive. It lets her think that you probably have other things keeping you busy, things to fall back on, and maybe other girls you'll start talking to if she doesn't treat you with that level of respect. Thing is, if you can't set boundaries and be willing to walk away if she crosses them, you know what that tells her? That if a random guy tried messing with you and her, and maybe even your kids on the street, that maybe you wouldn't be willing to stand up to him. Because after all, if you can't even stand up to her, how would you be able to stand up for your family against a random guy acting aggressive and disrespectful towards them? Point is, you have to be willing to stand up for yourself when someone crosses a boundary, and that includes your girl. And if she shows you that it's in her nature to be a scorpion, to continue disrespecting you and betray you, you have to be willing to walk away. This person also says in the middle of the comment that this is his first relationship, so you know, I can empathize towards him. I remember how it's like to be in your first relationship. You know, when you've spent your whole life single and alone, and then finally find yourself in a relationship, it's one of the best feelings in the world. It's literally like a drug, you know, being with a girl who finds you attractive, who likes you back. It releases all these chemicals in your brain that makes you feel amazing. So I can understand how it can be hard to let that go. This guy explains at the end how he doesn't want to deal with the whole dating process again and trying to find someone else. And I mean, I get that part too, that wanting to play it safe and stick with what you have, even if that person isn't good to you. But here's reality. In order to grow as a person and as a man, you're gonna have to deal with confrontation. You're gonna have to realize the importance of outgrowing certain toxic people who betray that trust. You have to be okay with calling people out who cross a certain line, who don't treat you with respect, even if it's your first love. Your first relationship is most of the time just that, your first relationship. The one that you learn the most from, but not necessarily the one that's meant to last. You know, a great book that taught me a lot of these values of establishing boundaries with people when I was earlier on in my journey is No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert A. Glover. Now, the last point I want to make is something else I noticed about the story, which is the gaslighting. This guy mentioned how when she admitted she cheated, she started crying, explaining herself and how sorry she was. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure she really did regret it, Or maybe she just regret getting caught because she seemed okay with texting someone else after a few weeks. Then when he confronts her over messaging dudes on Tinder, she starts accusing him of being insecure to try to keep things under wraps. This is emotional manipulation 101, gaslighting to be more specific. For those of you who don't know what gaslighting is, it's defined as psychologically manipulating someone into questioning their own sanity. So in other words, she gets caught texting some guy, you get angry and want to see her phone, and rightfully so. Then she tries twisting it into a frame of, oh, why do you need to see my phone? Stop being so insecure. And someone who can't see what she's doing might think, oh, is that true? Am I being insecure? Damn, maybe she's right. Maybe I am overreacting. And the messed up part about this is that there actually are some weak men out there who are so dependent on their girl's validation that they'll fall for this gaslighting and eventually start to compromise instead of drawing the boundary. So be aware of this when it's happening and don't accept it. That's gonna be pretty much it for the video, guys. When I got this message, I felt compelled to make a video on it because I bet a lot of guys watching have either dealt with betrayal from girls or is probably going to deal with betrayal sometime in the future. What do you think of this guy's situation? Leave a comment below of what you would have done if you were in this guy's shoes. And one more thing, everything in this video about establishing boundaries and walking away with someone with a bad nature obviously applies to guys too. It's not gender specific. As usual, if you're interested in my free 5-page PDF on the fundamentals of attraction or want to follow me on Instagram, click on the description box below. Besides that, guys, hope you're staying safe, and next week I have the next episode of the Art of Seduction series coming out, so make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and as always, peace.